The ship shook like a dying animal as it fell through the orange clouds. Captain Park Tae-ho gripped his seat and watched the screens flash red warnings. Outside the windows, lightning the color of blood split the sky. The planet below was trying to kill them before they even touched ground. "Hull damage on sections 3 and 5, shouted engineer Choi My-rae from her station. Her fingers moved fast across her controls. The rain is eating through the metal. Tae-ho had read the reports about Kepler 447b. The rain here was not water. It was acid strong enough to melt steel in minutes. The atmosphere was poison. The gravity would crush a normal human's bones over time. Every animal, every plant, every rock on this world existed only to kill. The Galactic Survey Commission had classified it as a Category 9 death world, the highest rating. No species in the known galaxy had ever survived more than 6 hours on its surface. And yet, here they were, 5 humans and their captain, falling towards certain death. "Yuna, can you find us a landing zone?" Tae-ho asked. His voice was calm. He had learned long ago that panic helped no one. Lieutenant Kim Yuna worked at her navigation console. Her short black hair was wet with sweat. "There's a rocky plateau 2 kilometers east. It's the most stable ground I can find. But Captain, stable here means it probably won't swallow us immediately. That's good enough. Take us there." The ship turned. Metal screamed as the acid rain continued its work. In the back of the bridge, 3 tall figures watched in silence. The Valorian observers had gray skin and large black eyes. They were here to record the mission, to watch humanity fail. Tae-ho knew what they were thinking. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. To the older species, humans were children playing in a dangerous universe. This mission was supposed to teach them their place. The Valorians had suggested this planet. They had smiled when they did it. "Everyone hold on," Yuna said. "This is going to hurt." The ship hit the ground. Tae-ho felt his teeth crack together. Metal bent and broke. Sparks flew across the bridge. Someone screamed. Then everything went still. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Tae-ho unbuckled his harness and stood up. His legs were shaking, but he ignored them. "Report," he said. "Everyone alive?" "I'm okay," said Yuna, pulling herself up from where she had fallen. "Alive," grunted Sergeant Han Do-yeon. The security chief was a big man with a scar across his jaw. He was already checking his weapons. "We're fine back here," called Dr. Baek Jae-soo. The xenobiologist was helping medic Yoon Ha-jin to his feet. Ha-jin had blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead, but he waved off concern. "Just a scratch," Ha-jin said. "I've had worse." My-rae was still at her console. Her face was pale. "Captain, the ship is dead. Engines are destroyed. Life support is running on backup power. We have maybe 72 hours before it fails completely." Tae-ho walked to the main window and looked outside. The plateau stretched before them, gray and lifeless. In the distance, mountains rose like broken teeth against the orange sky. The rain had stopped for now, but he could see storms gathering on the horizon. "Can we call for rescue?" he asked. "Communications are damaged," My-rae replied. "I might be able to fix them, but it will take time. And even then, the nearest human ship is 3 weeks away." 3 weeks. They had 3 days of air. The Valorian observers stood together, speaking in their own language. Tae-ho caught them looking at him. One of them smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We will return to our orbital station," the lead Valorian said. His name was something Tae-ho could not pronounce. "We will continue to observe from there." "For the record, you're leaving us here?" Ha-jin asked. His voice was angry. "Our mission is to observe. not to interfere. The Valorian tilted his head. Do not worry. Your deaths will be recorded with full detail. Your species will learn much from your sacrifice. The three aliens walked to the emergency airlock where their shuttle waited. It had survived the crash because it was built with Valorian technology, far better than human engineering. Taiho wanted to stop them, to demand they help, but he knew it would be useless. The galactic laws were clear. Observer species could not assist. And truthfully, the Valorians wanted to watch humans die. It would prove what they already believed, that humanity was weak. The shuttle lifted off and disappeared into the orange clouds. Taiho watched it go. Then he turned back to his crew. 5 faces looked at him. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes. But they were also waiting for him to tell them what to do, waiting for him to give them hope. Taiho had been a captain for 12 years. He had led missions to frozen moons and burning asteroids. He had fought pirates and survived engine failures in deep space. But this was different. This planet was alive in a way that nothing else was. It hated them. It wanted them dead. And his crew was counting on him to save them. "Myray," he said. "What equipment survived the crash?" "Weapons are intact. We have food and water for 5 days if we ration. The geological scanner is working." She paused. "And the drilling equipment?" "It's damaged, but I might be able to fix it." Taiho nodded slowly. An idea was forming in his mind. A crazy, desperate idea. "Show me the scanner data," he said. "Everything you collected before we crashed." Myray brought up the information on her screen. Taiho studied it carefully. His eyes stopped on one reading. Deep below the surface, about 4 kilometers down, there was something strange. A structure made of crystal, giving off energy unlike anything in the galactic database. "What is that?" Jizu asked, looking over his shoulder. "I don't know," Taiho admitted. "But look at the energy patterns. They match the electromagnetic storms, the acid rain, the hostile life forms." He traced his finger across the screen. Everything dangerous on this planet connects back to that point, like a heart pumping poison through a body. The crew was silent, thinking about what he was saying. "You want to go down there," Doyen said. It was not a question. Taiho turned to face them all. "We have 72 hours. We can spend that time sitting here, waiting to die. Or we can fight." He pointed at the screen. "That thing down there is the reason this planet is a death world. If we can reach it, maybe we can stop it. Maybe we can survive. And if we can't?" Yuna asked quietly. Taiho looked at each of them. His family. His responsibility. "Then we die fighting," he said. "Like humans." No one argued. No one suggested they give up. One by one, they nodded. Outside, the first monster screamed in the distance. The hunt was about to begin. The Death World slaughtered his crew. He claimed its core part, too. The hunt begins. They stepped outside the broken ship and into hell. The air was thick and yellow. Even through his mask, Taiho could taste something wrong. Metal and rot and something else he could not name. The gravity pressed down on his shoulders like invisible hands, trying to push him into the ground. Every step felt like walking through water. "Masks have 40 hours of filter life," Hajin announced. He was checking everyone's equipment one by one. "After that, we breathe the atmosphere directly. Death comes in about 3 minutes. Then we better move fast," Taiho said. He pointed toward the distant mountains. "The cave system starts at the base of those peaks. 4 kilometers to walk, then 4 kilometers down." Dahin took the lead. The security chief carried the biggest gun and wore the heaviest armor. Behind him walked Jisoo, her scientific equipment strapped to her back. Then came Yuna and Mireille, followed by Hajin. Taiho brought up the rear, watching for danger from behind. The ground was gray and looked like stone. But when they walked on it, it moved. Tiny trembles, like the skin of a sleeping animal. Jisoo knelt down to study it. Fungal network, she said with wonder in her voice. The entire surface is connected. It's feeling us, learning our weight, our heat signature, our movement patterns. Is it dangerous? Do-hyun asked, his gun pointing at the ground. Everything here is dangerous. Jisoo stood up and brushed off her knees. But I think it's just watching, for now. They walked for an hour without trouble. The orange sky never changed. There was no sun visible, just a constant sick glow from the clouds. The mountains grew closer, revealing details that made Taiho uncomfortable. They did not look natural. The rocks were twisted into shapes that seemed almost deliberate, like sculptures made by something that hated beauty. "Captain," Yuna said suddenly. She was looking at her portable scanner. "I'm picking up movement." 300 meters ahead. Everyone stopped. Do-hyun raised his weapon. The silence was heavy and wrong. Then the ground to their left exploded. The creature that came out was like nothing Taiho had ever seen. It had too many legs. Its body was made of something between rock and flesh. Where I should be, there were just holes leaking orange fluid. It screamed with a mouth that split its whole chest open. Do-hyun fired. The energy bolt hit the creature and did nothing. The thing charged at them with terrible speed. "Scatter!" Taiho yelled. Everyone ran in different directions. The creature chose its target. It went for Jisoo. The xenobiologist was fast, but the monster was faster. It caught her leg and pulled her down. Taiho turned and fired his own weapon. Again, no effect. The creature's body seemed to absorb energy. "Bullets!" Do-hyun shouted. He switched to his backup weapon, an old projectile gun. The first shot cracked through the air and punched a hole through the creature's side. It screamed and let go of Jisoo. More shots followed. The creature tried to flee back underground, but Do-hyun kept firing until it stopped moving. Taiho ran to Jisoo. Her leg was torn badly. Bone was visible through the blood. Hajin was already there, pulling out medical supplies. "I can stop the bleeding," Hajin said. His hands moved with practiced speed. "But she can't walk on this. She needs surgery. Real surgery in a medical bay." Jisoo's face was white with pain, but she was not crying. She looked up at Taiho with clear eyes. "Leave me," she said. "I'll slow you down." "No," Taiho said immediately. "We don't leave anyone behind. Captain, be logical. The mission is more important than one person. You know this." Before Taiho could argue, Yuna shouted a warning. "More coming. 5, no 6 signals. They're surrounding us." The ground trembled. More creatures were rising from below. They had learned from watching the first one die. They were attacking together now. "We need to move," Do-hyun said. "The cave entrance is 1 kilometer away. We can defend better there." Taiho made his decision in half a second. "Done. Carry Jisoo. Everyone else, cover fire. We run." Do-hyun lifted Jisoo onto his shoulder like she weighed nothing. The group started moving toward the mountains. Behind them, the creatures broke through the surface. Mai-Ray had modified her engineering tools into weapons during the walk. She fired a concentrated heat beam at the nearest creature. It burned through the rock flesh and the thing fell. But more were coming. They ran through a nightmare. Creatures attacked from every direction. The ground itself tried to grab their feet. Acid rain started falling again, burning through their suits in places. Hajin screamed as some of the rain hit his arm, but he kept running. Yuna saw the cave entrance first. A dark hole in the mountain face, just big enough for them to enter. "There! Go, go!" They crashed into the darkness. The cave walls were solid rock, different from the living ground outside. The creatures stopped at the entrance, screaming with frustration. They would not follow into the mountain. For a moment, everyone just breathed. They were alive. Somehow. Then Hashin checked on Jisoo, and his face went pale. "She's gone," he said quietly. Taiho pushed forward to see. Jisoo lay still on the ground. Her chest was not moving. The wound on her leg had not killed her. But when Hajin lifted her mask, they saw the truth. A tiny crack. Acid rain had gotten through. She had been breathing poison for the last 10 minutes. She had known. She had not said anything. She had not wanted to slow them down. Taiho knelt beside her body. He wanted to say something. Wanted to honor her somehow. But there was no time. There was never enough time on this planet. "We marked the location," he said finally. "When this is over, we come back for her. For now, we keep moving." No one argued. They gathered their remaining supplies and looked deeper into the cave. The darkness ahead was complete. Their lights showed only the first few meters of a tunnel that went down and down and down. Somewhere above them, in orbit, the Valorians were recording. They had just watched their first human die. Taiho imagined them taking notes, discussing how long the others would last. He would prove them wrong. He would reach that core or die trying. Actually, both things would probably happen. But he would reach the core first. "Let's go," he said to his crew. 4 people, now instead of 5. "We have a planet to kill." The Death World slaughtered his crew. He claimed its core. Part 3. The slaughter. The tunnels went deeper than they had imagined. The scanner showed 4 kilometers to the core, but the path was not straight. It twisted and turned, sometimes going sideways, sometimes climbing up before dropping down again. After 6 hours of walking, they had covered less than 2 kilometers. Taiho's legs burned with every step. The heavy gravity was stealing their strength 1 minute at a time. His mask filter showed 32 hours remaining. Not enough. It was never going to be enough. But they kept walking. The cave was not empty. Strange plants grew from the walls, glowing with soft blue light. They were beautiful in a way that felt wrong. Hajin wanted to touch one, but Yuna stopped him. "The spores," she said, pointing at her scanner. "They're releasing something into the air. It's not getting through our masks, but if you touch them..." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. They walked around the plants carefully. The tunnel narrowed as they went deeper. Soon they had to walk in single file. Dohin went first with his gun ready. Then Mireille, then Hajin, then Yuna. Taiho stayed in the back again. At the 2-kilometer mark, they found their first sign of previous visitors. Bones. Dozens of them, scattered across the tunnel floor. They were not human bones. Some had too many joints. Some were made of something that looked like metal. Different species, different times, all meeting the same end. Others tried, Mireille said softly. They all failed. They weren't human, Do-hyun replied. There was iron in his voice. We're different. They stepped over the bones and continued down. The next attack came without warning. One moment, the tunnel was quiet. The next, the ceiling collapsed. Rocks fell like rain, filling the narrow passage with dust and chaos. Taiho was thrown backward by a falling stone. He hit the ground hard, and his light went out. For a terrible moment, there was only darkness and the sound of crashing rocks. Then his backup light flickered on. He could see the tunnel ahead was blocked. Tons of stone now separated him from the others. Yuna. Do-hyun. Anyone. He shouted into his communicator. Static. Then Yuna's voice, broken and weak. Captain. We're okay. Mireille's hurt but alive. But the tunnel is blocked. Can you find another way around? Looking now. A pause. Yes, there's a side passage. We can meet you at the 2-kilometer mark. Taiho looked at the rocks blocking his path. He could try to dig through, but it would take hours he did not have. Okay, I'll find my own way. Keep moving. That's an order. But Captain, keep moving, Lieutenant. I'll catch up. He turned off his communicator before she could argue and started looking for another route. The tunnels here were like a maze. Dozens of small passages connected to the main path. Most were too small to use, but he found one that looked promising. He crawled through darkness. The passage was tight. His shoulders scraped against the walls. At one point, he got stuck and had to exhale all his air just to squeeze through. But he kept going. On the other side, he found a larger cave. And in that cave, he found Hajin. The medic was lying against the wall. His leg was bent at an impossible angle, crushed by a fallen rock. Blood pooled beneath him thick and dark. Captain, Hajin said. He smiled weakly. Took a wrong turn. Taiho rushed to his side. The injury was bad. Very bad. Without proper medical equipment, there was nothing he could do. The others? He asked. I got separated during the collapse. Found this passage. Thought it would lead to them. Hajin coughed. Blood came up. Guess I was wrong. I'll carry you. We can still... No. Hajin grabbed Taiho's arm with surprising strength. Listen to me. I was a soldier before I was a medic. I know when a wound is fatal. I have maybe 20 minutes. You don't have time to waste on a dead man. Tears burned in Taiho's eyes, but he did not let them fall. I'm not leaving you. Yes, you are. Because that's your job. Hajin reached into his pack and pulled out a medical kit. Take this. The others might need it. And take my mask. My filters are newer than yours. Hajin. My name is Yoon Hajin, the medic said. I was born in Bizen. I had a sister who loved to paint. I became a medic because I wanted to save lives. He pressed the kit into Taiho's hands. Save them. That's how you honor me. Taiho took the kit. He took the mask. He stayed with Hajin for as long as he could, holding the dying man's hand in the darkness. When it was over, he closed Hajin's eyes and stood up. 2 down. 4 remaining. No. 3 remaining. 3 people left to save. He found the others an hour later. They had made good progress, but Mireille was in bad shape. Her arm was broken and her breathing was labored. Something internal, maybe a cracked rib, maybe worse. Where's Hajin? Yuna asked, seeing the extra kit in Taiho's hands. Taiho shook his head slowly. No one spoke. Yuna looked down. Do-hyun put his hand on the wall and bowed his head. Myra started crying silently. There was no time to grieve. There was never time. They were at the 3-kilometer mark now. 1 more kilometer to the core. The scanner showed it clearly, that strange crystal structure pulsing with energy. So close, so impossibly far. The next tunnel opened into a massive cavern. The ceiling was so high their lights could not reach it. The floor was covered with the same glowing plants they had seen before. And at the far end, blocking the exit to the final tunnel, stood the Guardians. 3 creatures, each larger than the ones on the surface. They were made of rock and flesh and something that looked like metal. Their eyes glowed with orange light. They did not move. They did not need to. They had been waiting here for 1,000 years. They could wait forever. Ideas? Yuna whispered. Do-hyun checked his ammunition. Not enough bullets. Mireille was looking at the glowing plants. The spores, she said slowly. They're flammable. I saw it in the chemical analysis. If I can rig an ignition source, that would kill you too, Taiho said. Not if I'm fast. Not if I seal the tunnel behind me after I start the fire. Mireille looked at him with calm eyes. I'm slowing you down anyway. My chest. I think my lung is punctured. I can feel it getting worse. There has to be another way. There isn't. You know there isn't. She started pulling components from her engineering kit. Her broken arm made the work difficult, but she did not complain. Give me 5 minutes to set this up. Then you run for the far tunnel. The fire will kill the guardians and clear your path. Taiho wanted to argue, wanted to find another solution. But she was right. She was always right about things like this. He helped her set up the device. When it was ready, she handed him the detonator. Don't wait for me, she said. When I give the signal, you run. My ray. They'll kill that planet, Captain. She smiled through her pain. Make it hurt. 3 minutes later, she gave the signal. Taiho and the others ran into the cavern. Behind them, Myray activated the ignition. The world turned to fire. The Death World slaughtered his crew. He claimed its core Part 4, the core the explosion shook the entire mountain. Fire raced through the cavern, eating the spore plants in seconds. The heat was terrible, even from a distance. Taiho felt it burn through his suit as he ran. Behind him, the Guardian screamed. The sound was like nothing human. It was the voice of the planet itself, crying out in pain. The fire consumed them, their rock flesh melting, their metal bones glowing red then white, then collapsing into ash. Taiho did not look back. He could not look back. They made it to the far tunnel just as the ceiling of the cavern started to fall. Rocks crashed down where they had been standing seconds before. Dust filled the air. And then it was quiet. Only 3 of them now. Taiho, Yuna, and Do-hyun. The tunnel ahead was different from the others. The walls were smooth, almost polished. They reflected their lights like dark mirrors. Strange symbols covered the surface, carved by hands that had never been human. This was not a natural place. Someone had built this. Something. How far? Do-hyun asked. His voice was rough from smoke. Tae-ho checked the scanner. 500 meters. Almost there. They walked in silence. Each step brought them closer to the heart of this terrible world. Each step reminded them of what they had lost. Jisoo, swallowed by the ground. Hajin, bleeding out in darkness. Myray, burning with the monsters. The tunnel opened suddenly into a chamber of crystal. It was beautiful. Taiho hated that it was beautiful, but he could not deny it. Crystals grew from every surface floor, walls, ceiling in spiraling formations that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. The air here was different, cleaner. The scanner showed it was actually breathable, and at the center of the chamber, floating a meter above the ground, was the core, a sphere of pure light, no larger than a human head. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat, orange and red in colors that had no name. Energy radiated from it in waves that Taiho could feel in his bones. This was the source, the brain, the soul of the planet. We made it, Yuna whispered. There were tears on her face. We actually made it. Do-hyun raised his gun toward the sphere. So we destroy it? Taiho studied the core carefully. I don't think we can. Look at the energy readings. A weapon would just be absorbed. We need to remove it. Take it out of the planet's body. How? Before Taiho could answer, the planet answered for him. The sound started low, like thunder far away. Then it grew. The walls of the chamber began to vibrate. The crystals sang with a terrible high note that drove into their skulls like needles. Taiho fell to his knees, hands over his ears. The core was defending itself. Images flooded his mind. He saw the planet's history, millions of years of killing. Species after species had come here. Explorers, conquerors, refugees looking for a new home. The planet had killed them all. Their bones were buried in its soil. Their ships were broken on its surface. It had grown stronger with each victory. and now it was going to add humans to its collection. "Captain!" Do-hyun shouted. He was fighting to stay standing. "What do we do?" Taeho forced himself to think. The sound waves were designed to cause pain, to stop intruders from approaching the core. But humans had evolved in a different hell. Earth had volcanoes and earthquakes and ice ages and plagues. Humans had survived them all. Pain was nothing new. He stood up. His legs were shaking. His nose was bleeding. But he stood. "Cover me," he said. "I'm going in." He walked toward the core. Each step was harder than the last. The sound grew louder. The light grew brighter. He felt his skin starting to burn, his eyes starting to water. His mask cracked and fell away. Poison air filled his lungs. It did not matter. Nothing mattered except reaching that light. Behind him, something moved. The crystals on the walls were coming alive. They broke free and formed into shapes, creatures made of glass and light. More guardians. Final defenders. Do-hyun opened fire. The bullets shattered the crystal creatures, but more kept forming. "Go!" he shouted. "I'll hold them." Taeho did not stop. He could not stop. Yuna ran to help Do-hyun. Her gun joined his. Crystal bodies exploded around them, but the fragments reformed into new shapes. It was a battle they could not win. They could only delay. Taeho reached the core. Up close. It was not just light. There was something solid inside. A crystal, small and perfect, surrounded by swirling energy. The heart of the planet. The source of all its hate. He reached his hand into the light. Pain. More pain than he had ever known. The energy tore through his suit, his skin, his muscle. He felt it trying to consume him, trying to absorb him like it had absorbed all the others. His bones were burning. His blood was boiling. His vision went white, but he did not pull back. Humans did not pull back. He thought of his crew. He saw their faces. Jisoo, who had smiled when she discovered new life forms. Hajin, who had always had a kind word for everyone. Mireille, who could fix anything with enough time and wire. And in that moment, he understood why humans were different. But it was not because they were stronger. It was not because they were smarter. It was because they refused to stop. Earth had tried to kill humanity 1,000 times. Humanity had survived, evolved, grown. Every challenge made them more stubborn. Every disaster made them more determined. The galaxy thought humans were young and weak. The galaxy was wrong. Humans were the original Deathworlders. And they did not know how to quit. His fingers closed around the crystal. The planet screamed. Not a sound this time, but a feeling pure rage and terror transmitting through the energy field. The core fought him with everything it had. Tried to burn him away. Tried to erase him from existence. Taeho pulled. The crystal came free. The light died. The sound stopped. The crystal creatures fell apart, becoming nothing but broken glass. The chamber went dark and silent. Behind him, Do-hyun lowered his gun. Yuna fell to her knees. Taeho stood in the darkness, holding a small crystal in his burned and bleeding hand. It pulsed weakly, all its power fading. The planet's consciousness was trapped inside it, contained, defeated. "Is it over?" Yuna asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. Taeho looked at the crystal. He could feel the planet's hate, even now. It would kill them if it could. But it could not. Not anymore. "It's over," he said. His legs gave out. He fell to the ground. The crystal was still in his hand. He would not let it go. Not ever. This was his prize. His trophy. The proof that humanity had done what no other species could do. They had beaten a death world. Now, they just had to survive long enough to tell someone about it. The death world slaughtered his crew. He claimed its core. Part 5. The claim. The Journey back was easier than the journey down. Not easy, nothing on this planet was easy, but the world no longer fought them. The tunnels were quiet. The creatures that had hunted them before now lay still and dead. The living ground had stopped moving. Everything connected to the core had died with it. Taiho walked in front. His burns were bad and getting worse. His breathing was difficult, but he still walked. The crystal was tied to his chest with strips of fabric torn from his suit. Do-hyun carried most of their remaining supplies. His armor was cracked in a dozen places, and dried blood covered half his face. But the big man moved like nothing was wrong. Soldiers learned to ignore pain. It was just another enemy to defeat. Yuna navigated using her scanner. She led them through the maze of tunnels, finding the fastest path up. Her mask had cracked during the final battle. She was breathing poison air now, but the levels were lower with the core dead. She had hours instead of minutes. Maybe enough time. They passed Moray's body in the burned cavern. The fire had consumed everything. There was nothing left to bring home. They passed the place where Hajin had died. Taiho paused there for a moment. He touched the wall where the medic had sat at the end. "Thank you," he said quietly. Then he kept walking. They passed the bones of the other species. Aliens who had tried what humans had done. Aliens who had failed. Taiho wondered who they had been, what their names were, what dreams they had carried into this place. It did not matter. They were dead. Humans were alive. That was the only difference that counted. The surface was waiting for them when they finally climbed out of the caves. The sky was different now. Still orange, but softer. The acid rain had stopped completely. The air was cleaner. Not safe, not yet, but better. The ship was still where they had crashed. Still broken. But when Mireille had died, she had left her tools behind. And Dayan, it turned out, had paid attention to her repair lessons. "I can fix the communications," he said, studying the damaged equipment. "Maybe. Give me a few hours." Taiho nodded. He sat down against the hull of the ship and closed his eyes. Just for a minute. Just to rest. He woke to the sound of engines. A shuttle was landing next to the ship. Not human. Valorian. The gray-skinned observers were coming down from orbit. Do-hyun had his gun raised, but Taiho waved him down. "Let them come." The three Valorians stepped out of their shuttle. They looked different now. Their smug confidence was gone. They moved carefully, like they were approaching something dangerous. Like they were approaching predators. The lead Valorian stopped in front of Taiho. His large black eyes reflected the human captain's burned and broken body. He did not speak for a long moment. "We watched everything," he finally said. "We saw your crew die. We saw you enter the core chamber. We saw—" He stopped. Started again. "We saw what you did. And?" Taiho asked. "No species has ever survived longer than 6 hours on this planet. You were here for 27 hours. No species has ever reached the core. You reached it in 18. No species has ever removed the crystal." He paused. "You removed it." Taiho looked down at the crystal still tied to his chest. It was dark now, lifeless. All its power was gone, but he could still feel something inside it. The planet's consciousness, trapped forever in a prison of its own making. "The planet is dead," Taiho said. "The atmosphere will stabilize over the next few years. The hostile life forms are already dying. In a decade, this world will be habitable." The Valorian nodded slowly. "We know. We have already sent this information to the Galactic Council." He hesitated again. "There is a question of ownership." Taiho smiled. It hurt to smile. Everything hurt. But he smiled anyway. "By the laws of galactic conquest," he said, "a planet belongs to the species that defeats it. That takes it by force from whoever or whatever controlled it before. He held up the crystal. I defeated this planet. I took its heart. I am claiming it in the name of humanity. The Valorians did not argue. They could not argue. The laws were clear. One of them opened a communication device, an official record, a document that would be sent to every government, every species, every corner of the known galaxy. The planet designated Kepler 447b, the Valorian announced, formerly classified as a Category 9 death world, is hereby recognized as the legal property of the human collective, claimed by right of conquest. He looked at Taiho. Name of the claimant? Captain Park Taiho, ship GSV Eternal Dawn. Taiho thought of his crew. On behalf of Lieutenant Kim Yuna, Sergeant Han Do-yoon, Dr. Baek Jisoo, Engineer Choi Mai-rae, and Medic Yoon Ha-jin, this planet belongs to all of us. The message was sent. In hours, it would reach every corner of the galaxy. In days, it would change how every species thought about humanity. The Valorians offered them transport back to human space. Their medical facilities could save Yuna, could heal Taiho's burns, could give them all a chance to survive. Taiho accepted. But before he left the planet, he stood on the surface one last time. The world was quiet now. Peaceful, almost. Hard to believe this empty gray landscape had been trying to kill them a day ago. Hard to believe 4 of his crew were buried somewhere beneath his feet. We'll come back, he said to no one. To everyone, we'll build a monument here. Your names will be remembered forever. Da-hyun stood beside him. The security chief said nothing. He did not need to. Yuna was already on the shuttle, getting oxygen and medicine. She would survive. They all would survive. Because humans always survived. 1 month later, the first human colony ships arrived at Kepler 447b. They found a world that was healing itself. The poison atmosphere was clearing. Plants were growing real plants, not the hostile kind. Scientists theorized that the core had been holding the planet in a state of perpetual hostility for millions of years. Without it, the natural processes could finally continue. A new classification was added to the Valorian Planetary Database. Above Category 9 Death World, they created a new entry. Category 10, Human Claimed. It meant a world that had been conquered by force. A world that had met the species from Earth and lost. The monument was built exactly where Taiho had wanted it. At the entrance to the cave system, overlooking the plateau where the Eternal Dawn had crashed. 5 names were carved into stone that would last forever. Baek Jisoo, Yoon Ha-jin, Choi Mai-rae, Han Do-yoon, Kim Yuna. The last name was still alive, of course. But Taiho had insisted. She had been willing to die on this world. That was enough. Below the names, a single inscription was carved deep into the stone. They did not die on this world. This world died because of them. The galaxy learned a new truth that year. Humans were not children. Humans were not weak. Humans were the species that looked at death itself and refused to blink. They were the Death Worlders. And they had just announced their arrival.